realfaith.org.au.
We were up the street at Cheaper Music buying some strings. You know, we were playing a lot. We were playing hours each day, so we needed some new strings. And there was a sign on the window that said harmonica contest, and the boys said, "Oh, you ought to go in it." The only problem was it was on right then, and so we didn't have a car, so we had to walk. So we were 3/4 of an hour late. So we got up there and did the things, and I won it.
Welcome to Real Faith. Conversations about the impact faith has on our lives and the challenges we go through, helping us today and giving us hope for tomorrow. That's real people, real life, and real faith with Eric Scatterbo.
Steve Messa was born into a musical Christian family in the late 1950s and eventually began playing and recording music of his own, which he describes as being very non-commercial. He and his wife Jenny have been married for over 40 years, and they faced the biggest challenge of their lives when their normally healthy daughter, Sal, suddenly became mysteriously ill in 2007. Today, Steve and Jenny will share their story and how their faith, along with a little music, has helped them through the hills and valleys of life. Steve and Jenny Messa, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Eric. It's good to be with you.
Glad to have you with us. And yes, you've been married over 40 years, is that right?
That's right.
And you've been through several hills and valleys along the way?
Well, that's life, isn't it? You know, I've heard it said that nothing grows on hilltops. That's in the valleys that the growth happens. So there's been a lot of valleys.
Good point there. Well, we're expecting more of those little nuggets of wisdom along our conversation here today. And Jenny, I'm sure you'll be sharing a bunch too.
Yes, I'll give it my best.
All right. Well, let's go back to, let's see, Steve, you were born first, so we'll have you go first.
Thank you.
1959, was it?
59.
Okay.
Born in England.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad was over there working for 3 years. Mum was actually English, and she wanted to go back and show my brother off to her friends in England. So she'd come out after the Second World War to Australia, and so she persuaded, I don't think Dad needed much persuasion, and they went to England, and I was born while they were over there, and came back to Australia when I was 6 months old.
Okay, and where did you kind of
live at that point? I was born in Surrey in England, and then we moved, Mum and Dad moved back to Blackburn in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, and that's where I grew up.
Okay. And Jenny, you're from all the way over in Ringwood.
This is correct, yes.
Also on the east side of Melbourne.
Correct. My father was an orchardist. We grew up in an orchard in North Ringwood. And
so there were orchards in Ringwood
there
at
were.
That point. I can't picture
then,
that now.
Yes, no, it was a very family-focused area. We had aunts and grandparents living in the same street and around the corner. So, yeah, it was a fabulous upbringing. I loved growing up in an orchard. I used to walk to school 1.5 miles every day. And,
oh, wow.
That's just how we got to school. So it was a great place to grow up in.
Okay, and was faith a part of your experience growing up?
Not so much then. Mum and Dad didn't attend church, but later on I have cousins that lived in Sydney, and my uncle was actually a bishop in Sydney. And he had a sit-down one day with my parents, and he must have had quite a conversation, because once we came back from that holiday in Sydney, we all went to church, and from then our faith grew.
How old were you at that time?
I was probably about 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, but I don't think my faith actually became, and I think Steve would probably agree with this, is made more sense when I went on my very first beach mission team.
Okay, we'll get to that, because I believe, Steve, your stories interconnect at that point. But let's back up and find out about your family in general. As we heard on the introduction, a musical Christian family?
Yeah, well, it was. Mum was a gifted church musician. She was a very good piano player and had actually been trained to play the pipe organ, which she didn't get to do often, but I did hear her play it a couple of times. She was an outstanding reader of music. She could sight read almost anything. And probably the highlight of her musical career was that she directed the Melbourne Praise concerts for 10 years. That eventually they started at the Dallas Brooks Hall and ended up at the Melbourne Concert Hall, and it was her dream to put together a choir and an orchestra. She believed, and with a friend, they had this vision of putting on a major concert, a bit like the Prom Praise concerts in England, 100-voice choir, 70-piece
Oh, wow.
orchestra, and they were attended by thousands of people for 10 years. And so that was, and Mum would always accompany the hymns. So at those, there was a whole range of different music, but Mum was a very good musician. Dad was... he was an accordion player and a piano player, so I grew up with him playing the accordion at Beach Mission. I could always tell the difference between Mum and Dad's playing. Mum was a serious musician. Dad had a lighter, sort of almost a jolly touch.
Oh, okay.
And he could barely read music. I think he had learnt to at one stage. But so I grew up surrounded by music, particularly hymns. And I think Mum probably bought me records that she wanted to have herself, but she knew I'd like them. And so... I remember once she said that if my brother and I didn't fight for a week, she'd buy us the Daddy Cool album. So,
And what was the first instrument that you played?
Recorder. Actually, I was kicked out of the school recorder band because I didn't.
Why
really
is
like
that?
it. Well, I couldn't read music, and I used to have to write the names of the notes underneath, and so I'd play everything by ear. But I didn't like the conductor very much, and I kind of thought that the recorder was a sissy instrument or something, and I really wanted to play the drums, and so I had the opportunity.
You wanted to bang things.
Yeah, I sure did. So I went and told the recorder conductor that I wanted to play the drums. So she whacked me on the head with a descant recorder and said, "Be off with you, boy," and that was it. So I was done with the recorder.
But you still continued in music, even though you had this bad experience.
Well, see, I never really had lessons. I loved music, and my brothers had lessons, and I kind of missed them. I learnt drums for 6 months, and I played them pretty seriously for a fair while. But I realised that if I was going to play music the way I wanted it to come out, I'd have to do something other than drum. And so I started to play the guitar, and then I picked up... Well, actually, I'd started playing the harmonica, so that was the first thing I really took to. And then I was shown some chords on the guitar, and I figured out some of that. And then I wanted to get a mandolin. I saw a fellow called Ry Cooder play at the Palais Theatre in Melbourne, and couldn't get over how much music he got out of a mandolin, and so I thought I'd better get one of those. And so I just figured out where the chords sat on the mandolin, and just started working on that. I had 6 months of lessons on the mandolin from a classical music teacher, but I guess he realised that I really wanted to play fiddle tunes and things like that, so he helped me with that. But yeah, I've mainly taught myself, and I got into slide guitar as well because I loved the Allman Brothers and Ry Cooder. So
so music,
self-taught.
Big part of your life right from the start, it sounds like.
Yeah.
What about faith? What role did faith play?
Yeah, well,
in your life?
I was brought up in a Christian home where the faith was serious. Mum and Dad were serious Christians. Both my grandfathers were Christian converts. They'd both been unbelievers from unbelieving backgrounds that came to personal faith, but they raised my parents in the faith. And so Mum she was very hospitable. Dad was good at issuing invitations, but Mum always did the cooking. But we had an open home and an open table, and we always had people around for lunch on Sundays. And so there was just this constant cast of interesting people coming into our house, missionaries and people that needed somewhere to eat, and people that perhaps didn't have many friends or were on their own, and so Mum would look out for them. And then, very importantly, Dad was asked to take over leading the Apollo Bay Scripture Union Beach Mission, what was called CSSM, Children's Special Service Mission. That was at Apollo Bay in 1968. And so he and Mum led that team for 17 years. So I was brought up going to Apollo Bay every summer, and going to the beach mission was a massive thing for me spiritually, because I was just a kid, but I saw older people, and they were probably only 18, 19 or 20, but they seemed very grown up to me. And they loved the Lord Jesus, and they were kind to me, and that was a powerful combination. But I actually became a Christian, I think, at the Tidal River Beach Mission, where we were on holidays, and a man called John Lane, on the last day of the beach mission, made what amounted to an appeal and said, you can't rely on what your parents believe. You've got to make a personal profession of faith. And I thought, well, that's me. I couldn't think, I didn't know that I'd done that. I believed in God, but I knew I had to do something about it myself. So they said, if you want to do something about it, then come back tomorrow morning. So I did. And I went back in the morning, and a man called Roger Pope prayed. Well,
you remember all these names.
Yeah, well, they were important people, important people. And so I think that was the January of 1968, and I believe, I was convinced that I had to do serious personal business with Jesus that day. Yeah.
And then, Jenny, how did you eventually meet Steve?
Well, my cousins actually were known to the Messer family, and my cousin Angela rang me up and said, would you like to come on the Apollo Bay Beach mission? And I was a fairly shy person, and I thought, oh, that'd be good. But then at the same time, I chickened out and didn't think I'd go. And then Steve's father rang me and said, we'd really like you to come on the team.
A personal invitation.
Personal invitation
Wow.
from the director. And I thought, I can't really wriggle out of this. So I went along to their first meeting. That they had these meetings on a Sunday afternoon in preparation for going to Apollo Bay. And, I felt really welcome, and I thought, I can do this. And I never looked back. So I met Steve on that first beach mission that I went on. And
First
the rest is
impressions?
history. First impressions, I liked him.
Yeah.
I did. I liked him.
Did he have a mandolin, or was that,
No, he
I
didn't.
wasn't playing
No,
mandolin at that
no.
time.
or any?
No,
Any instrument?
I probably didn't do a lot of music on the beach missions in those days because
So you didn't win her over
No,
with your music
No.
I don't-
from the start.
I don't think I did.
And about how old were you guys at that point?
I was 18, going on 18, almost 18.
Okay, and did you become a couple right away?
No.
Not really.
No, Steve rang me up and did ask me out eventually.
I rang her up, and she caught my eye, and I rang her up to see if she'd go out with me, and I was pretty nervous because I was pretty shy, and she said she would, so we went and saw Soup. I took her out to dinner at the Spaghetti Parlour in Collins Street, and then
My goodness.
we went to see
The
Superman,
detail.
the first Superman
Oh,
film.
okay.
Yeah. So,
That's about 77, 78.
And then I rang her up another time and I said, I'm going to go and see the Kevin Borich Express on Friday night. Do you want to come? I'm going anyway. And she said she did. So I thought, well, she's into it. So we went and saw the Kevin Borich Express. Yeah.
And is that what won you over there?
Not sure about that. Probably the Spaghetti Parlour.
I took her to see some pretty weird music actually, and I thought, she's a keeper. If she can come and see the John McLaughlin and the One Truth Band, then she's right. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was a musical test. So,
Yep.
Jenny, were you into music before this?
No, I wasn't. Not really. Steve introduced me to a lot of different music. So, no, previously to that, I'd probably was into John Denver or something like that. Something completely,
Something
or Queen,
very
Things
standard.
Steve, something standard. Steve wouldn't have liked any of the music, I don't think, that I liked.
Well, I love you. I can't find a clever way to say it. Oh, but I do. And I pray to God that He will help me to be all you need me to be to you.
Our guests today are Steve and Jenny Messa, and they're sharing their story as a couple. We just heard their backgrounds and how they met. Next, we'll hear more of their story and some of Steve's music. All that and more is coming up when we return right here on Real Faith.
The Word for Today is Australia's most widely read daily devotional, designed to give you practical teaching to keep you focused on your relationship with Jesus. Read it online or subscribe to the free printed edition at thewordfortoday.com.au.
You're listening to Real Faith, conversations with real people about how God works in their lives. If you want to know more about integrating faith into your life, our website is realfaith.org.au. Just go to the website and you'll find helpful articles about the impact faith can have on your life. Once again, that's realfaith.org.au.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Scadabo, and today I'm chatting with Steve and Jenny Messa, who are sharing their story as a couple. Before the break, we heard about the beginning of their relationship. Next, we'll hear more of their story and about Steve's love for playing non-commercial music.
at a very early stage, I decided I didn't like commercial music that was played on the radio.
Yeah.
And I discovered this program on the ABC on a Monday night called Room to Move, and he played non-commercial rock music. And so that's where I learned I heard a lot of blues and even some gospel and music that wasn't played in mainstream radio, and that really struck a chord with me. And so I became really interested. I started reading about music and following the notes on the back of records, and sort of one thing led to another. I didn't buy a lot of records because I didn't have much money.
And your mother wasn't buying them for you anymore?
No, well, she did. Look, she did occasionally. Once I started at uni, I had some funds, and so I would. That's when the record collection really started to grow. But I loved great playing and interesting songwriting, and then I got heavily into bluegrass and then gospel music.
Okay.
A lot of very unusual gospel music.
So right from the start, your faith was incorporated into your musical career.
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, I figured that out that the music you do has to be authentic, and so that was why I began writing songs, because I didn't really want to sing what other people were saying, because the music that I liked, often I didn't really embrace the words. And so I started to write songs because I had ideas that I wanted to hear come out lyrically, but also musically, and so that's why I wrote them. But it's important that it's authentic and that it expresses values that are biblical and informed by a close walk with Christ, and so that's how that came.
And how many albums have you recorded over the years?
Well, I've done 3 albums of originals, and we did the first one was 1993. That was called Working Church and Saturday, and that was all my originals. And then we did another one in 98, which is called Strange Country. They're both available on a website called Songs of Faith, Hope and Love. You can get both those albums there. And then in 2004 we did Country Bazaar, and that featured 4 songs by one of the guys in the band, Steve Camp, as well as my originals. And we also did a gospel album in 2008 with our mate Terry Darmody from Sydney, where he and I put our heads together and we made a wish list of all the great old gospel songs that we wanted to do. And we did some rare ones, and mainly fairly obscure ones, actually, because that's what I like.
And when you performed, you weren't just at churches and stuff. You were at
we've
festivals?
done a lot of we've done a lot of churches over the years, and I've never actually promoted it. It's always just been word of mouth. Yeah, we've played at festivals. We used to do folk festivals and in Victoria, but we went for 13 years straight to the Tamworth Country Music Festival.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Is it there where you entered the harmonica competition?
That's right. The second year we went was 1999, and we were up the street at Cheaper Music buying some strings. We were playing a lot. We were playing hours each day, so we needed some new strings. And there was a sign on the window that said harmonica contest, and the boys said, you ought to go in it. The only problem was it was on right then, and so we didn't have a car, so we had to walk, so we were 3/4 of an hour late. And so we got to the door, and the lady at the door was actually in charge of the whole thing. And I said, well, what's involved? And she said, do you want to go in amateur or professional? And I said, I don't know, what's the difference? And she goes, you got 2 guys with guitars in cases, you can go in professional. And so it was already going. And so they had a house band made up of serious professional musicians, some of the hot cats in Tamworth. And I asked if I could use my band, because those guys didn't know my songs, and they were a little bit unconventional. And so one of them was actually an original tune. And so they said, yeah, that was all right. So we got up there and did the things, and I won it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so anyway, I thought, I've won it once, I should defend the title, So next year, and like I hadn't practiced or anything. They were just stuff that we were doing in the set anyway.
Yeah.
But the next year I worked up 2 pieces specially for the contest, and so I did the Orange Blossom Special, which is an old fiddle tune, and I also did Gee's Your Joy of Man's Desiring by J.S. Bach. So the contest MC said, chalk and cheese, these two. And it was a much bigger field the second year, and anyway, I won it again. And so they asked me...
2 years in a row.
Yeah. So then the lady who organised it said, you probably shouldn't do it anymore. She said,
Yeah, give someone else a chance. Come on.
She said you could come back next year and make it a hat trick. And she said, unless you want to judge it. And so I said, oh, yeah, that'll be all right. So I judged it. And,
So you moved up a level.
well, kind of. I mean, it's not, it's not that. But my co-judge was a guy called Broderick Smith, who's not long ago died, actually. And he was one of my very early heroes, playing the harmonica with the Dingoes, which is one of my very favourite bands. And so I got to sit next to Broderick and judge the competition with one of my heroes. So that was interesting.
Oh, wow. That's a highlight.
Yeah, except he wasn't interested in talking. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh, well, you got to meet him anyway.
I did. I got to meet him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we should back up a little bit. Jenny, eventually the two of you got married,
Yes, we did.
and you lived where?
We lived in Nil, which is in the Wimmera,
Western Victoria.
Western Victoria. Thanks, Steve.
Actually, there's a story behind that too. Because,
here we go.
Yeah. I was posted
What
to Nil.
date, please?
Yeah, well, it was late 1980. I was told that I'd finished my teaching course and I was bonded to the education department, and that meant they could send me anywhere in Victoria.
So you were a teacher for several years.
Yeah. And
So the music was just kind of a side thing?
oh, always, yeah.
Okay,
We never
yeah.
made any money doing it. It was always it was a
And still not making
serious
any money.
hobby. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd been posted to Nil, and Jenny and I were going out, and one day my grandmother and I were alone in a room, and she said to me, she always called me Stephen. She said, "Stephen, what are you going to do with Jenny?" And I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. And so she
Hadn't
said,
thought about it.
well, no, I hadn't actually. And she said,
How long were you going together?
Oh,
at
a
that
couple of
point?
years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Poor Jenny.
And so she said to me, because she was English, she said, your grandfather was posted to India, and his best friend said to him, what are your intentions with Emily? Because if you don't marry her, I will. And so she said, you need to make your intentions clear. I thought, that's a good idea. So I proposed to her later that week. And she said yes. And so I was sent to Nil at the beginning of 1981. And back in those days, there was 3 school terms. And so in the second term holidays in August, we got married, and she came up and joined me in Nil.
So did he sweep you off your feet there, Jenny?
Oh, absolutely.
I did carry her across the threshold.
You did.
I told her that I'd found a really good farmhouse because there was very little rental accommodation in Nil. And so I'd looked at several farmhouses that were quite remote from the town, and one of them was a ruin. And I found this other one that was very dirty because it hadn't been lived in for a long time, but it was structurally sound, and it was only 14 miles out of town. So I told her I found a really good house, and when she got there, she cried because it was filthy.
Not quite what I was used to. And apart from that, I didn't have my licence.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, because Steve had been driving me around, I didn't really have any intention to get my licence. So I did eventually. I did get my licence in Japarut, and I had to drive around the town once. I didn't get out of second gear, apparently. And as long as I took the policeman back to the police station, I had my licence. So it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
His final words were, I want you to do a 3-point turn. And if you can get me back to the station without knocking the car on anything, you've got your licence. That was it.
Such high standards there.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
huge.
it was a bit old school, but they were good times in the Wimmera. We had a lovely time. We made some great friends.
We
Yeah.
did.
Okay, so Steve was doing the music and was a teacher. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you were
Being a mum.
being a mom?
So-
Not straight away. I mean,
Eventually.
No,
but we-
eventually.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't that long after we were there that I did fall pregnant, and we had Jessica, and my life, changed, I guess, in that respect. My really good friend Cheryl, she had Amanda at the same time. We had the run of the Newell maternity section of the hospital for about 10 days. So
10 days?
10 days. It was pretty cruisy
it was
up
a
there.
different time.
Yeah.
And it was an absolutely different time. And Jess was a bit jaundiced, so they just stuck her out in the sun for a couple of days. So
And then
But-
2 years later, our son Andy was born. And then about a year later, Sally was born. And Sal wasn't very well at the beginning. She had 6 weeks in a humidity crib. And so it was at that point we decided we needed to move back to Melbourne, closer to the family. Or not to Melbourne. I got a job at Warrigal High School. And so that was about halfway between Jenny's parents, because they'd moved to a farm by then at the Gerties near Phillip Island, and my parents were in Blackburn. So we were about an hour away from each parent. And
And that's
yes,
where you've lived until today.
Yeah, well, I went to Warrigal High School, but we bought a house in Druin, and we still live in Druin. So we moved there in 1986, and we've been in Druin ever since.
Well, that's the music of Steve Messa and some of his award-winning harmonica playing. Steve and his wife Jenny have been our guests today and sharing their story as a couple. And as we heard at the end of today's conversation, they eventually had 4 children, and their daughter Sal had some health challenges from early on. Next time, we'll hear how their lives are turned upside down when Sal's health mysteriously takes a turn for the worse in 2007. That's all coming up next time. But before we end today, I just want to let you know that you can find Steve's music at a website called Songs of Faith, Hope, and Love. Just type in Songs of Faith, Hope, and Love into a Google search, and you'll find the website featuring Steve's music. The homepage says it contains late 20th century songs written, recorded, and sung by Christians in Australia and beyond. So you can check out a lot of good Christian tunes at that website, Songs of Faith, Hope, and Love. Well, until next time when we'll hear more of Steve and Jenny's story and some of the major challenges they faced, I'm Eric Scadabo. So long, and God bless.
You've been listening to Real Faith, and if you have any questions or comments, you can send us a message through our website, realfaith.org.au. That's realfaith.org.au.
Real Faith is a production of Vision Christian Media.
This program is a production of Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, see vision.org.au.